So why is total student load so important? It's fundamentally the issue of Mark Hopkins on one end of a log and the teacher on the other. And in addition, it's very important to have a small school. Why? Because it's easier to manage a small school. A large school, say 4,000 student high school, has a budget approaching $50 million. It'll have about 600 employees. Now, just think about what kind of a principal you need to run an organization that large and that complex and run it so well that every student gets what they need. You're talking about a principal who is so broad in experience, so deep in knowledge, so skillful as a leader that they probably don't exist. But on the other hand, in a small school, you've got 15 to 20 teachers, and a principal also has a maximum total student load they can cope with. The principal's students are the teachers. The principal's job is to teach the teachers how to be more effective. And a principal can handle 15 to 20 teachers. A principal who herself is a skilled educator can do that. And there's lots of those people available. The next one, please. Thank you. So there are four things that all four of these districts are doing. If you are going to give principals this kind of autonomy, you must embed them in a dense web of accountability. You can't just give them all this autonomy and say, go do whatever you feel is good to you. And the most important element in that web of accountability is school choice for families. So in New York City, it used to be that you could only attend the school in your zone. And if you wanted to depart from that assignment, you had to request a waiver from the central office, which they would always tell you was easy to do, but the fact everybody knew was that it was impossible to do, so much so that nobody bothers to try. Same in Boston, same in most of these other cities. But now, every family in New York City lists up to 12 schools they'd like their child to attend, and then there's a great big computer match, and almost everybody gets one of their top 3 choices. Now here's the key. If the principal is no good, what is a weak principal? A weak principal is one who cannot keep, train, develop good teachers. And parents know, believe me, which schools have good teachers. They follow them around like they follow celebrity chefs. And if you have a weak school, you're going to have a lot of empty seats. And that's going to be very hard to explain away. So choice is a crucially important thing for a lot of reasons. Second is each principal must have 4 crucial freedoms. Freedom over how they spend their budget, freedom over how they staff their school, freedom over their curriculum, and I distinguish that from the standards that are set by the state. So the state says, for example, in the 8th grade, every student must be able to show by a narrative, example, and definition the proper use, as we've already said, of simile, metaphor, and analogy. But it doesn't say whether they need to learn that by reading Shakespeare or by reading Maya Angelou. That's the curriculum decision. So the schools need to have that freedom over curriculum and finally over schedule. Those are the crucial 4 freedoms that all the autonomous schools have in all 8 of these districts and in Edmonton. Now there are some, the world is not made up of ideologies and pure forms. So nobody perfectly corresponds with that. New York City has adopted a standard reading curriculum for the elementary grades. However, they are not ramrods about how they implement it. If a school pushes back and says, well, wait a minute, we very carefully selected a different reading curriculum, have trained all our teachers, invested in it, and we're doing just fine with it, thank you very much, look at our results, then the district backs off and lets them do it. In Los Angeles, by comparison, when they picked, what was it? It was one of the directed reading programs, Open Court. They said, you will use Open Court, K through 6. And you will be on the correct page on the correct day. We're going to send the Open Court police around to your school, and if you're not on the right page, we're going to write you up. And you will go to training. So all the teachers, were smoking outside the auditorium while somebody was teaching open court. I mean, they were insulted. They should have been. They're trained professionals. So there's subtleties that one needs to understand. The accountability system I'll show you in New York City. It's a dense, rich accountability system that ends up in every school, meaning every principal getting a letter grade, A, B, C, D, F. I said last night 2, but it's actually if a principal gets 3 C's in a row, 3 years in a row, they're out of a job. Okay. If they keep getting B's, then they're doing a lot of explaining. The Upper East Side schools in Manhattan that have the children from the most privileged families, a lot of enrichment, a lot of travel, a lot of parental attention, they score at the top always on the standardized tests, and those principals are accustomed to seeing their schools listed at the top in the newspaper every year and go around congratulating each other. Well, now I was sitting with one of those principals several months ago, and I said, "How are things going?" He said, "Pretty well." I said, "Well, what letter grade did you get?" He put his head down. He said, "I got a B." I said, "Well, do you know why you got a B?" He said, "No, I don't understand it. Look at my Regents examination results. 92% passing, 93% passing, 91.5% passing on all these different tests that high school students take in New York City." I said, "Yeah, but given your students, shouldn't you be 90% honors passing and 99% passing? Do you think that's why you got a B?" He said, "Yeah, I think so." So it's a real accountability system. It's meaningful. Weighted student formula is the 4th element that every single district uses. Mike Strembitsky, the innovator in Edmonton, was a very successful principal. At the same time, he was called Big Mike. They still call him Big Mike. He raised and slaughtered each year 3,000 hogs. And on the weekend, he built apartment buildings and houses to supplement his family income. And at age 35, they brought him into the Central and made him director for social studies. They gave him a budget of, when am I supposed to quit, Liv? Leave, where is she? What? A few more minutes? 5 more minutes? Really? Okay, I'll settle on 10 or so. So, Mike... they gave him a budget of $50,000 to buy maps and globes for all the schools in Edmonton. So Mike asked his colleagues in Central, "Well, how am I supposed to know what maps and globes to buy?" Well, they said, "Well, easy. You go and hire a consultant. You have them run some focus groups, do a survey, put out an RFP, buy the maps and globes, rent a warehouse, put them in there, and then hire a truck to send them to the schools as they need them." Mike says, "Wait a minute, I was a principal last year, and I remember how much I hated it when you guys did that to me. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take $50,000, I'm going to divide it by 80,000 students, and then I'm going to send a pro rata check to every principal in Edmonton. I'm going to say, here, you go buy your own maps and globes." They said, "Mike, what if one of those principals buys a microscope instead? You could go to jail. That's a violation of the Ed Code." So they sent Mike away to New York City for a year to chill out. And he came back in the spring. They said, "Mike, you're the superintendent now." So Mike Strembitsky went through the entire budget of the Edmonton Public Schools and did exactly what he had done with maps and globes. And that is what John Stanford and Joseph Olszewski learned about when they went up there, and that is what they brought back to Seattle. Thanks. Now, go to the next one, please. I've got to, let me get in trouble if I don't. So just as an example, in Edmonton, we got a little over 50% actually of students choosing to attend a school that's other than their normal zone school. In Denver, about 30%. In San Francisco, now 40%. In Oakland, after just 2 years, 30%. Choosing to attend a school other than their zone school, because under autonomy, each school becomes unique. And now families choose a school that meets their needs, whether it be wraparound before and after school programs, or whether it be an emphasis on arts or on music or on science or whatever it may be.